I believe that everyone is racist and can be racist and probably will be racist forever, and I don't think racism will ever go away. Racist ideas are considered normal in our modern society with media, culture, social systems, and institutions. In the article, James wrote about believing that we are in a society that privileges white people and whiteness. Racist ideas are considered normal. The U.S. focus on individual racism and not systemic racism, like believing in superiority of white people, not hiring of color because you felt something was off, and racist jokes. In 2017, an article that James D. wrote of being anti-racist said, race does not biologically exist, yet how we identify with race is powerful, that it influences our experiences and shapes our lives. So addressing racial privileges, I do believe that we have privileges. I feel like everyone has privileges, not just white people. I think that if people only believe that only white people have privileges, I think that means that I feel like everyone's just racist because they think that everyone is better than them or they're better than everyone else. White supremacy, it does sometimes find in violence, like with what was his name? The police officer that killed that black man by stepping on or having his knee on his George Floyd, yes. Something like that, like for my example. Racism is insidious and white guilt can paralyze people. So sometimes I think when I watch movies about histories with racism and privileges, sometimes I feel guilty, even though I'm not fully white, but most people consider me as mostly just white. But that's not me. I'm not like those people in those movies, and I feel like people try to blame me for stuff like that, even though I didn't do that stuff to them. But because of their heritage, it happened to their families back in the day. In an article, It Is Not Enough to Be a Non-Racist in 2020 by Karen J., talked about many white people don't hold that belief of white supremacy, but they believe that all of us are equal. Well, I believe all of us are equal, but a lot of people want more than everyone to be equal. Because they feel like not everything is equal. And sometimes I do see that. I do believe that not everything is equal. Like with scholarships. I am also Native American, and I just recently applied for a scholarship that I can get those benefits, but you can't because you are not Native American. And some people might consider that racist because they can't get those benefits just because of their race. In conclusion, not everything that is faced can be changed, and you can't change anything if it's not faced. In an article that's called In a Racist Society, It Is Not Enough to Be Non-Racist, We Must Be Anti-Racist by Angela D., wrote that racism is not a feeling or emotion. It is a way of thinking, creating, and implementing policies and laws that provide privileges to whites that are non-existent to minorities. I think, yeah, kind of like with people think a lot of white people have privileges, but sometimes there are like scholarships that white people can't get, like with my Native American scholarship, white people can't get. Or I feel like nowadays, I don't see a lot of white privilege, but I think that oh, bless you. I believe that it is just okay. I don't think I see a lot of white privilege nowadays, but maybe it's because I'm mostly shown as white rather than a different color of my skin. Although my mother, she is not white, she is half Native and half Mexican, and she says when she moved from Clinton to El Reno, that's when she experienced rudeness ever, and she believed that it was because of her skin color. Although I have never experienced that, because I'm thinking that maybe it's because I just look whiter than she does. So in a racial society that we live in, I don't think it's ever going to change. And not everyone thinks the same and probably want to be anti-racist, but they can be non-racist, because I believe anti-racist is hard to achieve because it can change your lifestyle, what you do in life, the restaurants you eat. Because if you want to be anti-racist and you see your favorite restaurant and the owner is racist, then you would have to stop going over there if you want to be anti-racist. But yes, in conclusion, I believe everyone is racist, and I don't believe racism is going to go away.
All right. What specific examples can you provide to illustrate how racist ideas are normalized in our media and culture?
Well, I think racism is very normalized, especially I feel like when I see a lot of cop videos, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's because I am this, or I'm this color, or I'm this color, it's because I'm Hispanic, it's because I'm black. I think when people say stuff like that, it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like that it's kind of, I don't know. I hope you get what I'm saying, but...
What is the difference between individuals' acts of racism and systemic racism?
So, what was the first one again? What's the what? Difference between which one?
What is the difference between individual acts of racism and systemic racism?
So, systemic racism is the racism with, like, schooling and society, like that kind of racism, kind of like scholarships or housing, like buying a house and stuff like that. Like, that can segregate with racism. Like, oh, you don't want to sell this person this house because of their color. I believe that's segregation. And the first one is negative thoughts in your mind of like stereotypes about it, like another race. That's what the first one that you said that racism is.
What potential consequences can happen if failed to recognize and address systemic racism in our institution?
Say that again.
What potential consequences can happen if failed to recognize and address systemic racism?
Well, I feel like nowadays there is a lot of racism that aren't very acknowledged or known about or not really seen or done anything by it. But I feel like when it mostly involves black people, then people make a stand. Sometimes, only on some videos that they have seen, and then they'll try to stand up for it. But they don't stand up for all of it. Like everything that happened that was definitely dealt with due to racism.
You say it's not enough to be non-racist, we must be anti-racist. What steps can you take to be anti-racist? But then yet you said it's hard to be anti-racist.
Yeah, because you would have to change your thoughts, and you would have to stop with the stereotypes of different race, and you would have to have a different lifestyle of your day-to-day life as well, like where you eat and what you do, and it just, you have to change a lot about yourself if you want to be anti-racist. Although I don't think I'm racist, yet I do have stereotypes of some race, but I never talk about them.
How do you know and recognize that white supremacy in our everyday life? And what are some examples in your life? Want me to repeat that?
Repeat that, yeah, sorry.
How do you know and recognize that white supremacy is in our everyday lives? What are some examples in your life?
Well, like I said, because I joke about having white privilege, but I don't think I've ever experienced white privilege. But maybe it's because as someone who looks like a white person, you know, and probably with most white people, they don't experience their privileges, but a lot of other races do. But I think also white people see other races' privileges, you know, like with schoolings and benefits that they get, and, you know, like Black History Month, you know. So I don't know, I feel like there's not a lot of white supremacy or privileges, I feel like nowadays, that I've never seen, and I feel like I have never received. Well, I think I've never received. Yeah.
Time.
Thank you. Well, you can click on